The next step after cleaning the fret slots during a refret and adjusting their depth, as we saw in a previous video, will be to bevel them into a V shape. Right now the slots are straight. What we're going to do is slightly shape the edges to create a V. This helps the fret fit in more easily and seat properly. For this, we'll need a small file, either a triangular or square jeweler's file. Using light strokes, we'll carefully slide the file along the slot to create the desired shape. If the fretboard has binding, as in this case, be extra careful not to damage it. In tight spots, such as the slot ends, a triangular file with a finer tip can be useful. It's very important to stay within the slot to avoid scratching the wood. Even though we'll give the fretboard a final finish after installing the frets, it's always best to minimize any damage. If scratches do appear, they can be cleaned up later with a razor blade. I'll now repeat on the next slot. For better camera angles, I'll be working in a reverse position. Normally, I would file from my side and stop precisely at the slot's edge without going past it. This is a crucial step in detailed refret. Paying attention to these small details ensures an optimal result. Low action without fret buzz and frets that are properly seated, making good contact with the wood. There's no need to overdo the filing, just enough to create a slight bevel along the slot walls. Here's from a different angle. I hope you can clearly see how the edges of the slot get a V-shaped bevel. As we discussed in a previous video, very old guitars often have dry, brittle binding. In such cases, extra caution is needed, as even slight pressure can cause cracks, especially at the slot ends. This process may cause a slight elevation along the slot edges. To correct this, we'll do a final light filing to bring the surface back to level. Now we can clearly see how the slots have changed. I'll continue working and speed up the footage for the video. The process isn't too complicated, so as usual, leave a comment if any questions arise. Once the V-beveling is complete, you may feel a slight edge when running your finger across the slots. To smooth this out, we'll use a file. This is a custom-made file I created years ago and has been very useful. The process is simple. Just run your finger across the slots to check for any remaining rough edges, and if needed, gently file them down. I'll also check the opposite side. As I mentioned, I made this file when I was first getting into guitar work. I crafted it alongside another file I use for beveling fret ends. During this process, small pieces of binding may chip off. We'll cover how to repair this in a future video. Someone recently asked me how to make these custom files. In my case, the hardest part was shaping the wooden handle. I shaped and stained it and glued it to the file using super glue. Though the stain is wearing off a bit, I also modified the file, smoothing its edges to prevent it from damaging the frets while working. This file was originally meant for a different use. It is 12 inches, maybe 10? I'm not entirely sure. Ended up using this uncut one, and I also smoothed the edges. Still needs some work. Anyway, I'm not fully convinced on how the slots feel, but I think that'll do. The next step in the refret process will be fret preparation. This includes adjusting the radius, trimming them to size, and removing any excess material at the tangs to ensure they seat properly, especially when dealing with bound fretboards. We'll also apply a fretboard protector to prevent the super glue from sticking too much to the wood, making cleanup easier. We'll install the frets by applying glue and pressing them in one by one. We'll go over this process in detail in future videos. For now, that's it. As always, don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and leave a like. See you in the next one.